Well, it's another nice day out, and I wanted to spend a little time up here with my vintage saws, changing the configuration a little bit, and then go load up a trailer full of firewood and maybe go out and drag a tree, because I'd like to drag some of the tops up that I had down from the fall. Not sure I want to fell a tree today, but I have a lot of tops. Now, one thing I want to see if I can do is put a little bit longer bar on that L77. It has more than enough power. One of the things you do on the older saws like that with a lower RPM, same with a Homelite, is you kind of put a taller gear on it, and you do that by putting a sprocket with more pins instead of a 7, possibly an 8, sometimes a 9 if you can find them, if you have enough power. But I'd like to see if I can get that one fired up in this shop, not with all my tools. Get that 70E going, and then put a longer bar on the L77. And from the stuff I have up here, I have a lot of stuff up here. And what I always get nervous about is oftentimes when it hits the wall like that, it'll sit there for 15 years and never be seen again, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to start trying to use up the stuff I have up here, because it's all good. I mean, sharpen it up a little bit, it'll work. And so that's part of the game today, is to get some of these old things running and grab some of the chains that I had tossed away from last year when I was not really having the patience to, file on them, and see if I can't come up with a couple of good cutting saws today for a firewood operation. I'll use my big yellow stand. How's that? With a wedge. So let me see if I can set this up here. I honestly don't know if I'm going to have video out of this or not, but we're going to find out. About like that. So let's start with this guy right here. And it runs fine. It's a good running old saw, no doubt. But it could definitely use a little bit longer bar. Alright, what do I got? So what I'll do is I'll put this one on the... Wow, this has been aggressively sharpened by me. So I'm going to put this one on the old L77 and then see if we can cut some wood with that. Let me give it a quick touch up and see what we have. Basically what I try to do is even up the top plates, because they're like way out of whack. Not sure I got it right, but like they say at Highway, it was better than it was. A little bit closer to being the same. They both have the same heavy raker, very aggressive raker in both of them. So we'll see if it cuts in a straight line. If not, it's, these things go for $30 a chain. So if I can file it to being useful, I think that's a good investment in time, But, it's up for debate. Next saw is, I don't know if I can do it, but I'd like to see if I can come up with a couple of screws to hold this together. Something different in sure what it was. Yeah, that's exactly what they're fitted for. So basically what I've got to do to make this work is destroy this by drilling it out some. Oh man, do I really want to do that? How much does it have to come apart? Not much. What I'll do is I'll take a couple of swipes with a file here instead of actually drilling them out, because that's pretty close. Again, the game here is to do it with the tools I have in this shop, not the tools I have in the main shop. Because that's not even fair down there. Die grinders and drills and basically all kinds of tools. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing that saw run. And what I ended up doing was I pulled off the starter and found out that these were M5 by whatever, so one M5 by 1s or whatever the heck they are. Oh, M5 by 0.8s is what was there. And these are the M4s. So I found a couple a little bit longer screws and they bit good. And these were already retapped. Someone had already done that. Probably me. And so now I've got a pull start on this thing. I'm really hoping it fires. It would make my day. See, I like puttering like this. You know, coming up with combinations, going through the parts bin, finding stuff that's been left behind and trying to, you know, buff it up and put it back into use. So let's see if we can get that one going. Get that one fired. And then we'll chase the Jonsered 80 there. Let's see if we can get that to go. I can't remember why it stopped, but it did stop. So it would not surprise me to see that this one needs diaphragms and stuff in the carburetor. I think it's been a couple of years since I've run it. But let's see what happens here. This one here has got the high speed button right there where basically it has the throttle at high idle. Look at that. That runs. Let me see what the teeth look like. I'm going to take a quick pass on each of these teeth. Last tooth. Let's see how they look. This is just what I've done forever. Nothing special. And we'll go take a look and see what it does out in the woods. I've filed them like this since I was a kid. You know? No idea if that's good or bad. All I know is it's worked for almost 50 years, and we'll see if it is too aggressive for that saw. The one thing I do know is I know there was a lot of bad gas about the C85s, and these are the Oregon versions of that. They're not really nearly as aggressive with the raker as what I typically do, and also there's not as much gullet in there. Now, I don't know what the correlation is. Here's one right here. Nope, this one here is another Oregon. So I've got a bunch of Oregon ELX is what I've got here. I don't have the C85. But I've had good luck with the C85. It feeds very smoothly and push them right into the wood. And they're not, you know, they go in smooth. You lose a little bit of cut speed relative to one of my hand filed chains, or even the ELX or LGX, which is my old favorite. But what I gain is I can just push it right through the tree when I'm doing a, you know, a bore cut from the front or a bore cut from the side. This one right here, look at that. It balances quite nicely. You know, one of the reasons I like that L77, yeah, it's got tiny little ports. It's not going to rev more than, you know, 11, 12,000 RPMs, but it makes decent power, not great power. It runs like a modern, like 60cc saw in terms of power, but it comes on lower in the RPMs because of the way the ports are laid out and holds in the cut pretty well. Pretty powerful, very useful. And even though they're all metal, they really don't weigh, you know, a whole lot more than a modern, say, 70cc saw. They're in the 14 to 15 pound class. And they cut good. I mean, you can see why in their day they were considered a prime saw. Now these are a little heavier, but man, they are rugged. Of course, they went into the anti-vibe pretty quick. And they're a little more sophisticated that way. And this one with the integrated chain brake, which is a safety device plus the anti-vibe, you know, that added a fair amount of weight to that saw, you know. So yeah, it's going to be heavier than that one. Let's give that Jonsered 80 a shot and see if I can get it to fire. And then maybe we'll put a 24-inch bar on that one too. I'll leave those 20s because I ground them up to fit these. Basically, those are 10mm studs. Either you die grind a Husky or you shim down a steel. I don't remember which one I did on these, but I did one of them. Well, this one started so easy. Let's see if it restarts. It's only sat for a little bit while it was jawing. See if I have to choke it. See, that's a nice saw. Ow! It's old Doug sighting into his hunting rifle. He's got a 270. And they're all getting ready for deer season. So, alright. One last saw to try. Let's see if we can get this one to fire. I think before we do anything though, with these, that's a really short bar for a saw like that. It's a new chain. So let's see if we have spark before we do anything. Really nice spark. So when you pull that cover off of these old Johnnies, you just have to remember that wire is there. use a longer bar. Look at all that oil. Wow. So I had an idea to end the day before I go off on an errand. Let's start a useless debate about which saw is faster, the Husqvarna or the Jonsered. That's not a bad running saw right there. That's the Jonsered 80. That's a Jonsered 70E with a way too aggressive chain, but that's a self-feeder. It's also an easy starter. So that's the 70E. Of course, it didn't start before because I didn't have it turned on. Let's see if it restarts. Now both this saw right here and that Jonsered 80, they're roughly in the same era. The Jonsered was sold a little bit after, but they have a similar cylinder design, so they should be similar in power. Pretty much the same displacement, you know, same basic era. What else we got in there now? Interestingly enough, this Husqvarna Model 61 is roughly the same era as all three of those saws. The 80 was sold, you know, in the 1980s, late 70s. The same with the 70E, and the L77 was sold, I don't know, mid-70s up into the 80s. This one was built in 1978, so it's right smack in the middle of it. But this is a modern layout. And my hunch is you'll be surprised what a small saw can do, even as compared to those larger saws. So let's see if we can get it fired first. So that's what a Model 61 from 1978 looks like. Of course, it has a 272 top end on it, but that's besides the point. It still has the original Model 61 carburetor, so it's not quite a 272. So there you have it, a bunch of old saws. 1978 61, God only knows, probably early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, pretty much all in that same general area. And by feel, I don't know, that old 80 had some real grunt to it, but it also had a good chain. I think the difference between one saw and the other on this particular day, I would say that saw and those two are roughly equal. With this one here having the RPMs, that one kind of falls behind a little bit, but it should. But the biggest difference between these four saws in that cookie cut race was the chain, bar and chain combo. You know, none of those chains are optimal, although the one on the 80 was good for it. You know, the L77 didn't do bad, but the other two, you know, that one could use more aggressive rakers, and that was a little bit too much of a chain for that particular saw. But all right, that's a wrap. I gotta go. You know, and then you ask yourself, okay, what's the best saw, right? It's kind of hard to answer that question, but you know how you can tell which one I think is the best saw? Let's see which one we use over the next couple of weeks. The one that has the most video time actually working, not just doing cookies, is the one that I like the best. Simple as that. All right, we're back into the for real wood, and I have a big mess to clean up down here. Lots of tops to pull, lots of firewood, just from this one area alone. And it's pretty muddy up through there, so it's going to be fun trying to pull. I don't have the logging winch on right now. I'll probably put it on later in the week, but I really don't need it for a lot of this stuff. But what I do need to do is I need to break some of this down so I can pull it. And then we're going to fell some of these trees right here after we get some of this other stuff out of the way. These tops have been down since last fall, and it's what I'm going to use to heat my house with. But what I need to do is get rid of some of the smaller branches and get them cut off, and like cut that one from the root ball and get it to where I can pull it out. I want to pull a lot with a small tractor, so I'm not burning a lot of diesel. But and what I have is I have these antique saws, and I got them all running today. And I think I'm going to start, I don't know, the one that starts the easiest one is the one I'm going to start working with. I'll try all four. And actually, if one starts in 3 pulls, well, I'm just going to go working with it. But I got a lot of small stuff to do. And since I'm going to be stepping around in the brush, it means I need to put my chaps on and have my PPEs on, you know, for sure. And what I'd like to do is to cut some of this out where I can hook onto it. Well, this one right here does what it always does. It cuts good, really nice. And it's running really nice as well. So let's try another one. And I like this one here because it has a pretty nice balance of power and lightweight. You know, it's really not an overbearing saw at all. So, let me see. Let's see if we can get one of the other Jonsereds going and then start working off over here. Here's that big 90. A little bit more saw that we need. I'm not going to fight with it that long. So it's not ready yet. Alright, how about the 70E? I think what I need to do is go down and get a handful of spark plugs. See if this one will start. It's quite a bit lighter. Well, that's a no-brainer. That saw right there, that's a no-brainer. Starts, idles, restarts. You know, it's a little heavy for its displacement relative to modern saws. So we got the big saw, you know, 80cc saw with a long enough bar to fell some of these trees. And there's my lemon saw and my firewood saw. That thing is a nice saw to run. I had forgotten how nice it is. And that's a Jonsered 70E. Both the 80 and the 61's got some start issues. So I'll leave it there for now.